Watch how the third quarter goes down. At least they called this one. A'ja Wilson creams Lexie Hall like she did 5 times in game 1. Peggy Hammock get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. A'ja Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hall. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hall gets called for a foul.
The Indiana Fever didn't lose game 2 because they were outplayed. They lost because the officials gift wrapped it for the Las Vegas Aces. 41 fouls were called, with 16 coming in a single quarter. Players were being shoved to the floor left and right, yet somehow A'ja Wilson was celebrated for her stat line, while Lexie Hall had to push through a back injury she suffered in game 1. That wasn't basketball. It was chaos dressed up as defense, and yet the Fever still found a way to claw back into the fight. The real question is, what does this mean as the series shifts back to Indiana? If you're riding with the Fever, drop a comment. Let's go, Lexie. Let's go.
I mean, it feels like a physical game every game. Feels like it's been a physical season. But yes, I think, you know, I feel like I've been on the ground a little bit more this series so far. But we just keep getting back up, so that's all you can really say.
How did Indiana walk into Las Vegas, take on the defending back-to-back champions, fight through one-sided whistles, and still walk out with a double-digit win? Game 1 wasn't just a victory, and it was a statement to the entire WNBA. The Fever opened that series with poise and discipline you rarely see in such a young roster. And from the jump, Kelsey Mitchell erased every doubt, dropping a playoff career-high 34 points and setting the tone. Every time the Aces tried to crank up the pressure, Indiana answered, not with flash, but with composure, keeping the pace in their hands and never letting Vegas dictate the game.
Take that. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's one. That's one. That's one. Yeah. Fever dog. They ain't song and dance to me, man. I'm just grateful, man. I love basketball. I love playing with my team. So let's take a week again.
And then came the Aces' so-called trump card, A'ja Wilson. The MVP had a night she'll want to forget. Just 6 makes on 22 shots. 6. Indiana's defense hounded her all game, forcing contested looks, shutting off the rim, and making every single basket a grind. That was the difference. One team defended with discipline and execution without piling up fouls, while the so-called powerhouse couldn't find a rhythm on their own floor. But the whistles? They told another story. A'ja Wilson getting bailed out by questionable fouls, Aaliyah Boston playing perfect defense only to see the refs' gift calls, and at one point, a jump ball when no one even had possession. That was beyond frustrating. What made it sting for Vegas was the bigger picture. This was at home with the whistles tilted their way and the national media already writing in an easy series win. Instead, Indiana marched in and left with a 16-point statement blowout. Sure, fans noticed the lopsided foul count. Even in victory, it felt suspicious. But the size of Indiana's win overshadowed the noise. That undercurrent of bias didn't disappear. It was just buried under the reality that the Fever proved they could handle business no matter what.
And A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces lose game 1 on their home court to the Indiana Fever, 89-73. The Indiana Fever were in control of this game from start to finish.
That 16-point beatdown lit a fire under the Aces. A loss that ugly couldn't be brushed aside, and it's exactly why they stormed into Game 2 desperate to flip the script. The question was never if Vegas would answer. It was how far they were willing to go, but at what price did they choose to fight back? Was Game 2 really basketball, or just a brawl disguised as playoff intensity by the officials? From the very first minutes, it was obvious the Aces weren't focused on playing clean. They were out to make it rough.
WNBA, you cannot blindside somebody and set a screen on them without enough time for letting the player being screened react. And then look at this. This one, their arms lock up, but you gotta let go at some point. Like, you can't bring the person closer to you and just stay locked in while the offensive player is trying to get the rebound. But we know A'ja Wilson only receives fouls.
From the opening tip, it was bodies flying and collisions on every possession. Yet the refs never once got the game under control. What should have been a thrilling back and forth between two elite teams instead turned into a whistle fest. 41 fouls in total. 16 of them came in the third quarter alone, a stretch where Indiana had no real shot at building rhythm. Every spark of momentum was smothered by constant stoppages, and somehow those calls seemed to tilt toward one side again and again.
So why don't you think you were able to find any flow, and when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. And, you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from doing it.
The rough play wasn't just a moment here or there. It defined the entire game. Cutters were shoved off their paths, defenders leaned on forearms instead of moving their feet, and time after time, players wound up on the floor. The issue wasn't only the foul count, but how those calls shattered Indiana's rhythm. This is a team built on pace, moving the ball, running the floor, playing free. Instead, they were dragged into a wrestling match they never signed up for. While Vegas stacked up trips to the free throw line, the Fever were stuck grinding through half-court possessions, the one place they're least comfortable.
Yeah, Lexie, obviously you were a late add to the injury report today. Just how are you feeling this morning with your back, and what do you have to do to be able to play?
I mean, I'm feeling sore still, but I think just a lot of treatment, trying to get, you know, our bodies as ready as we can be. Part of playoffs, I think, for everyone is it's the end of the season. Everyone's a little fatigued, everyone's a little sore. So just trying to go out there and do the best I can. Yeah, a lot of treatment with our trainers. I'm really thankful for them to spend a lot of time with me today, a lot of time with me yesterday, getting me ready for tonight.
Lexie Hull probably shouldn't have even suited up. After hurting her back in Game 1, she was downgraded to a game-time decision. Most players would have taken the safer route, rest, recover, and wait until the series shifted back home. But not Hull. She strapped herself up, stepped on the floor, and instantly became a target for Vegas's bruising style. You could see it as it happened. Bump after bump, hit after hit, with her crashing to the hardwood more than once. And yet, through all of it, Hull rose up from deep and buried 5 threes, tying the Fever's playoff record. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't glamorous, it was flat out defiance. Afterwards, she admitted, "I'm still sore, but it's all about treatment and getting our bodies as ready as we can. We're just pushing through." That's not the kind of line you use to hype a highlight reel. That's the voice of a player who knows she's being tested and refuses to break.
This is what happened. They cut it to 8 and they get 4 fouls in a row. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. This is crazy. 4 consecutive fouls. So from 8, it goes to 13 really quick, and the rest was history. It looks like Howard got hit in the arm by 2 players. They don't call foul. It was a shot clock. But the rest of the game were just a whole bunch of fouls being called, people flying.
At the same time, the national spotlight barely touched Lexie Hull's toughness or the Fever's fight to keep their season alive. Instead, the focus landed squarely on Aja Wilson's stat line. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks. Those numbers were plastered everywhere. What went unmentioned was how she got them, muscling her way into the paint, throwing bodies aside, and riding a whistle that Indiana never saw on the other end. Fans watching called it for what it was, but the headlines told a different story. Dominance. But dominance isn't the same as fairness. Not when half the Fever's starting lineup was left hobbling by the end of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you look at it. It looks, honestly, by some of the fouls and the way it was going, it looks like we were almost too physical, but yet at the same time, I feel like we have to be able to get that on the other end. I think, you know, sometimes when you just look at the game as a whole, when you look at the way that it works, sometimes you manipulate it to different ways and you have smaller matchups. So, I mean, I just don't think it's really possible all the time for some of those smaller matchups to really do such a clean job of that. But hey, I'm here to hoop, so none of my business.
Aaliyah Boston felt it on nearly every possession. She finished with 10 points and 13 rebounds, but each one seemed to come with a shot to the ribs or a shove in the back. Trips into the paint that should have drawn free throws turned into silence from the officials. What's easy to forget is that Boston is only in her 3rd year, yet she carries herself with the composure of a seasoned vet. Against the Aces, she wasn't given a single break, and instead of complaining, she battled for everything. On the stat sheet, her numbers look steady, but in reality, that was survival basketball, with grinding just to put those numbers up.
Hulk kept her out of that space as much as she would have wanted to. She did end up with 19 points.
7-0. Aces run has been stopped. Sims in.
While the headlines circled around the stars, it was Odyssey Sims who gave Indiana room to breathe. She poured in 18 points despite constantly being swarmed by double teams, slapped on the arms, and cut off by whistles that killed any rhythm she tried to build. Time after time, Sims turned broken possessions into baskets, only to watch the next trip down chopped apart by another stoppage. The frustration showed, but her pace never dipped. Every surge the Aces made, Sims answered with buckets of her own.
Purcell and Young. Sims over. Asia Wilson, she had to put some extra arc on that.
The story of Game 2 isn't that Indiana faltered. It's that they were never allowed to play their game. The grit was there in Hull's threes, Boston's rebounds, and Sims's drives, but every spark was snuffed out by a whistle or a shove. The Aces didn't beat the Fever through strategy. They leaned on foul-heavy chaos and rode it to a win. So if you're asking why Indiana lost, it's not about who played better. Without all the interruptions, their poise and sharpshooting could have swung the game. The bigger question is, if Las Vegas needed the whistles and brute physicality to contain Kelsey Mitchell, what did they actually change in their game plan to shut her down? In Game 1, Mitchell torched the Aces for 34 points, scoring every way imaginable. Catch and shoot, off the dribble, attacking the rim. By Game 2, she was smothered. Her total dropped to 13, and it wasn't because she suddenly forgot how to score. The Aces came in with a single mission: squeeze every inch of space until there was no room for her to operate.
Steph, on that note, with Kelsey just having a little bit of a, they were able to contain her a little bit more. How did you feel like they were able to be successful in that regard?
I mean, the physicality won. She's like a little pinball, I know that the museum's right down the street, so sometimes I feel like she's getting pinged around everywhere.
They sent extra defenders at her, sometimes face guarding Mitchell even when she didn't have the ball. Every cut she tried to make came with contact. Every screen set for her met with a punishing hedge. That completely disrupted the Fever's rhythm. Instead of letting Mitchell control the pace and stretch the defense, Las Vegas forced the ball into other hands. Double teams funneled her passes into traffic, and by the time she found an open shot, the clock was usually winding down. It was a smart, disciplined adjustment, one that looks clean on tape but felt exhausting and chaotic in real time.
The physicality is out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put two hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
Ironically, even Becky Hammond spoke out after the game about how physical it got. Think about that for a second. The Aces had spent the night getting calls that stopped and started the game in their favor, yet their own coach wasn't impressed with the roughness on display. That detail is key, and it shows the outcome wasn't just about X's and O's. It was shaped almost entirely by chaotic officiating. Las Vegas's pressure on Mitchell worked, but the constant disruptions made it impossible to fairly gauge how effective those defensive adjustments truly were. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston kept battling. 10 points, 13 rebounds, another night where she played more like a linebacker smashing through traffic than a traditional post player. But Vegas wasn't just relying on brute force. They stretched the floor, pulled her out of position, and created mismatches that let Asia Wilson and Jackie Young attack freely without a real defender to stop the help side.
Now the starting point guard, and here's Hull, an early test. Great sign because her shooting has been off. Yes. Mitchell. Short. Hull with another offensive rebound, turn, shoot, scores. 2 of their last 3. Hull again. Yes. Oh.
You found it.
And then there's Lexie Hull. The Aces may have managed to quiet Kelsey Mitchell for a night, but Hull was unstoppable. Keep in mind, she had just hurt her back in Game 1 and was listed as a game-time decision, barely cleared to play. Yet she not only stepped on the court, she nailed 5 3-pointers, tying the Fever's playoff record. This wasn't luck, it was sheer mental toughness. A perfect example of how Indiana refuses to fold, even when the odds are stacked against them.
Run still. Lexie Hull has scored the last 6 points for Indiana with a couple of threes. Mitchell, good look. And she got it. Kelsey Mitchell in that first half had 9 points, but was just 1 of 5 from 3-point range. It was Lexie Hull doing the damage from 3, and now she's doing a Kelsey Mitchell imitation of the night. Sims gets the roll.
So yes, the Aces got their adjustments. They executed their plan, leaned on the whistles, and walked away with the win. But now the setting changes. The next game isn't in Las Vegas, it's in Indianapolis, where the Aces won't just face Mitchell, Boston, and Hull. They'll face 17,000 fans who smell an opportunity and plan to be louder than any whistle. What happens when a team that's been battered, fouled out of rhythm, and nearly injured on the road finally steps into its own building? That's the question the Indiana Fever will answer as the series moves to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. After 2 grueling games in Vegas, where the crowd energy and questionable calls favored the Aces, the dynamic flips. Now, every basket from Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell will echo off the rafters, amplified by thousands of fans instead of drowned out by chaos. The Fever finally get to play on their terms, and the arena will make sure everyone feels it.
I just asked you to look forward to this series going to your home court in Indianapolis. How much is that really going to make a difference in this series, and how much does it mean to you guys to have that home court advantage?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Our fans, they show up and they show out, and so for us just using that, our own energy, but also using the energy in the crowd, I think it's going to be really great for us.
Gainbridge isn't just a home court, it's a weapon. This season alone, we've seen visiting teams falter in the second half as the crowd's volume keeps climbing. The same momentum swings that slipped away in Vegas come roaring to life in Indianapolis. There are no quiet moments at Gainbridge. Fans stay loud through runs, through fouls, through questionable calls. While Vegas used the arena energy to their advantage in Game 2, now it's Indiana's turn to harness it. Even Becky Hammond acknowledged it. Our experience there has not been great this season, which says a lot for a championship coach. That matters because officiating bias can't hide when 17,000 fans are reacting in real time. No contact on Boston's post-ups will go unnoticed when the crowd erupts. No shove on Hull will escape attention when every fan demands accountability. That's the underrated edge of home court. It's not just about familiar rims or comfort. It's constant pressure on every call from the people watching closest, ensuring the game swings in your favor when it matters most.
We're excited. I know the last time it was the first playoff game in a really long time, so to be able to have 2 more for our fans that have been there with us all season, I'm really excited for that, and we definitely do feed off of their energy, so we're really looking forward to it.
For the Fever, all of that adversity is fuel. Lexie Hull battled through a sore back in Vegas, sinking 5 threes despite being hacked and knocked around. Aaliyah Boston grabbed rebound after rebound while taking far more punishment than the whistles reflected. Kelsey Mitchell was locked down after her Game 1 explosion, but you can feel that frustration transforming into something sharper now that the series returns home. This is where battle scars stop holding players back and start powering them up. We've already seen it this season. The Fever trailed by double digits at home, only to come roaring back once the crowd makes the arena suffocating for the opponent. That's exactly why Games 3 and 4 in Indianapolis aren't just another stop on the playoff map. These are the moments where the Fever turn pain into power, and the Aces step into a building where every mistake is magnified and every Fever run feels unstoppable. Vegas may have leaned on whistles and bruises to steal Game 2, but Indiana's spirit never broke. What happened in Sin City won't carry the same weight in Indianapolis. Home court is now the Fever's weapon, loud, fearless, and impossible to ignore. After the loss, both Boston and Hull said they can't wait to play in front of their fans. Hull said it best. Our fans, they show up and they show out. If Indiana could dismantle Vegas once on the road and still battle through chaos in Game 2, just imagine what happens next with Gainbridge packed and electric. Show your support for the Fever. Comment, "Let's go, Lexie." Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the action. Click the video on screen, and we'll see you in the next one.